Hey everyone, this is Pete, and welcome back to Evercade A to Z, a series of explorations of the games for Blaze's Evercade retro gaming platform. Today's game is Galaxian from the Namco Museum Collection 1 cartridge. This was originally released to arcades in 1979 by Namco as a response to Taito's Space Invaders, and it was subsequently ported to a variety of different platforms. The version found on the Namco Museum Collection 1 cartridge for Evercade is actually the Famicom port from 1984. Now, when putting together the original arcade version, designer Kazunori Sawano, having been tasked by Namco to put together the best post-Invaders game possible, decided to create a challenging but accessible game focusing on the idea of simplistic mechanics rather than getting too ambitious, and presenting a game that could loop endlessly while gradually inclining in difficulty. Sawano had also recently seen Star Wars and realised how important sound design was to that movie, so he decided to place a particular emphasis on giving Galaxian a distinctive audio presence. And the result is a game that was still easily identifiable purely by sound even today. Now, according to Namco's official lore website, yes, such a thing does exist, look it up, Galaxian unfolds in the year 2279 when the United Galaxy Space Force decided that Galaxians did not pose a significant enough threat to launch a full-scale war effort, and as such decided to dispatch a lone fighter to take them out. That's you, that is. If you are wondering, official canon states that Galaxian unfolds 239 years after Ace Combat 3, 90 years after Burning Force, 2 years before Gallagher and Bosconian, 103 years before Dig Dug, and 128 years before Starluster. Now you know. So, let's go play Galaxian.
Okay, here we are with Galaxian from Namco, seen here on the Evercade as part of cartridge number 2, the Namco Museum Collection 1. I've never been very good at Galaxian, so I will just say that as a disclaimer to begin with. But, well, here we are. We're going to play it anyway. If you've not come across Galaxians before, it's a very straightforward game. You shoot the aliens. You get more points if you shoot them while they are charging at you rather than when they are in the convoy at the top of the screen. And that's about it. So, let's begin. So, you control the ship at the bottom of the screen. Which, if you've seen my short play episode on Star Ixiom, is actually a ship you could fly in Star Ixiom. What with them unfolding in the same unified timeline and all that. But yeah, the thing I find especially interesting about this game is how relatively slow-paced it is compared to a lot of shoot-em-ups. When I wrote about this on MoeGamer a little while back, I described it as the thinking man's shoot-em-up, and I absolutely stand by that, because this is a game all about taking your time, making you sure you are positioned optimally to be able to deal with incoming threats. Carefully evading things. And taking chances when appropriate. And fucking up. Like I say, I have always been bad at this game. And, yeah, this version, which is actually the Famicom version, is certainly no exception to that rule. Despite knowing how bad I am, though, I've always liked Galaxians. Or Galaxian, rather. I've always called it Galaxians as well, even though that's not actually what it's called. Yeah, there's just something about this game that's really fun. I think it's a combination of the distinctive sound effects and the presentation and the way the enemies look and all that sort of thing. It's just a real classic game that I've always enjoyed a great deal. No! It's one of those games that it's satisfying to do well at, because you know You know, every time you lose a life in Galaxians, it's entirely your own fault. It's because you weren't paying attention to the enemy's movement patterns, you weren't paying attention to the bombs they were dropping. Or you were just trying to take too big a risk, in most cases. And that, I think, is what makes it such a timeless classic. Like I said in the introduction, the intention behind Galaxian was to make something that was really simple, that could just loop indefinitely and gradually get more and more difficult by increasing the speed or the intensity of the barrages of bullets that fly your way. And it really works. It's a perfect example of easy to learn, hard to master. Even if the flying enemies do sound like a 1980s telephone in this Famicom version. Oh dear. I have managed to break the high score of 5,000 before, but that doesn't appear to be happening right now. So I can only apologise for my pitiful Galaxian skills. But, in my defence, I'm talking to you all while attempting to play this. Right, let's try another strategy. Let's try... because this strategy has actually worked out for me before, which is completely ignore the convoy and only shoot down the chargers, which will actually get you more points. But it's a lot more dangerous and risky. There's also a certain element of luck to it as well, because you're never quite sure which way they're going to go when they... as you notice, they sort of swoop in one direction and then they stop and then they go off in another direction, and you can never quite be sure if they're going to go left or right. And as you can see, it's not really working out for me at the moment. But let's keep trying just for the rest of this playthrough. Alright, sod it. Play again. It's so nice to have games like this readily available on the Evercade, because they are perfect handheld game fodder. Because although there are substantial experiences on handhelds, and I'm not saying there shouldn't be, one of the core appeals of a handheld gaming device is having it on hand for just when you've got a few minutes to yourself for one reason or another. Maybe you're waiting for something. The traditional scenarios are you're waiting for a bus or you're sitting on the toilet. But equally, you could be on a really boring conference call at work. And rather than doing something unproductive during the meeting, such as falling asleep, you could instead be playing Galaxian. And attempting... oh, God. And attempting to demonstrate your mastery over the alien menace in your woefully underpowered spacecraft. I really like the fact that in Star Axiom, one, the Galaxian ship that you can fly is really slow and sluggish, but heavily armed. And two, when you are fighting the Galaga enemies in it, their main method of attack is just to try and ram into you. It's just perfect. It's just perfect, and it's just one of so many signs that Namco has so much respect for its back catalogue and is more than willing to pay homage to it. Like the very existence of that whole lore site I talked about is incredible. The first time I saw that lore site, I thought, oh, this is a cool fan site, and then I scrolled down and I saw at the bottom it was like copyright 2020 Bandai Namco. And I was like, you know what? Good on you. Good on you. That whole website is well worth a read through because it ties so many games together that you wouldn't think would be tied together in some way. So like I said in the intro, Dig Dug is part of the same universe as Galaxian. And the protagonist from Dig Dug is the estranged spouse of the protagonist from Baraduke. Mr. Driller is the son of the protagonist from Dig Dug. And like, even Ace Combat 3 is part of this timeline. Only Ace Combat 3, mind. None of the other Ace Combats, but Ace Combat 3 specifically is part of the timeline that leads us to Galaxian and Galaga and Star Ixiom and Dig Dug. And Burning Force, which is an amazing game. I feel like I'm sort of relaxing into it now. Not trying to do too much, just take it easy, take your time. That's the key to success at this game. And know when to cut your losses and just avoid. Yeah, see, we're getting a much better... Oops! Much better score this time around. Still nowhere near 5,000, of course, but... Well... Galaxian is quite a low-scoring game anyway, in my defense. Mavis, get the phone. Ah, level 2. Much like level 1. You might think. And you'd be right. Because that's how this game works. Oops. Come here. Oh no! Flew right into that one. If I remember rightly, I think you might get an extra life at 5,000 points. That seems to be the convention in Namco games of this era, which is that the basic default high score is set at the point where you get your first extra life. Don't... No. No, we're not going to reach it. Oh, that's the best we've done so far, though. That is the best we've done. Good. Right, I felt I got into the rhythm of things there a bit. Let's have another go. I find these old games also quite interesting to look at from a modern perspective because of the lack of options you have. Like, if you buzz forward to even the 16-bit era, the hardware generation after the Famicom, the NES, and this was on, already there you started to see games with option screens. But in this era, it was very much a case of, here's the game, learn it. You're just going to have to deal with its mechanics, you're going to have to deal with its difficulty level, you're going to have to figure out how you're going to learn how to play this game. We're not going to make any concessions for you, this is how we designed it, and you are going to respect that design. And that's quite an interesting approach, I think. And this isn't to say that the level of options we have in games today is necessarily a bad thing, particularly when it comes to stuff like accessibility and that kind of thing. But on the other hand, I think it's really quite refreshing to see a game where the only way to play is the original creative vision, the original mechanical design, the original structure, the original balance. When you consider how many games are continually patched today for things like game balance and that sort of thing. And you have Galaxian here, which doesn't have any difficulty levels, it doesn't have any settings. It's just purely, this is the game you've got. These are the mechanics. You're going to learn how to play this game, or you're not going to learn how to play this game. Pretty simple. So there's a really nice sense of satisfaction to this game, I think, because once you start figuring it out, once you start sort of nailing these shots that I'm doing here, and that sort of thing, it's really satisfying because you're reaching a point where you think, right, okay, so this is how this game is supposed to be played. This is how this game was designed. This was the original creator's vision of how it was supposed to go. And I always find that a really satisfying thing to experience. Because it's so easy to write off something like Galaxian as just another fixed shooter, just another game where you shoot down aliens who are at the top of the screen who attack you. And indeed, I've seen that happen. I remember reading old Atari magazines covering the actually rather excellent Atari 8-bit version of this game. And it was still like, oh, well, this is just a shoot 'em up. This is just a shoot 'em up. It's just another alien blasting game. And to be fair, at that time, we did have a lot of clones of Space Invaders and even Galaxian and that sort of thing on the home computer platforms. Because everyone saw the success of the original Space Invaders and wanted a piece of that pie. They wanted to try and recreate that success in their own way. Because they figured, if Space Invaders was popular, if they could create their own... No! If they could create their own version of it, then they'd be sorted. The reality was not quite so simple, of course. But even so, Galaxian specifically should be respected for the unique things it brought to the table. The swooping enemies. The more in-depth scoring system. In fact, in terms of modern shooters, thinking about it, Galaxian's variable scoring system is probably one of the biggest contributions to the genre as it exists today. Because modern takes on the scrolling shoot-'em-up generally have an incredibly strong focus on learning some typically quite complex scoring mechanics. So like if you look at your average shooter from someone like Cave or someone like that, there is always... The basic mechanics are always very, very simple, but in order to get the highest scores in the game, it's all about learning the intricacies of the scoring system and how that works. And that was Galaxian's big innovation over Space Invaders. It was the fact that the enemies weren't worth just a flat rate based on what tier they were on the screen. It was based on a variable rate according to which tier of the enemies they were in, and whether they were attacking you at the time or not. And in the case of the leaderships up at the top of the screen, the score is even more variable based on how many escorts they've got when you destroy them, how many enemies you shot before you destroy them. And that sort of thing. So it's a game in which you can understand the basics very easily, but then there's another layer on top of that to make things more complex and interesting. So yeah, as I say, I absolutely stand by my description of the... Oh no! I absolutely stand by my description of this game as the thinking man shooter because of its slow pace. It's very deliberate. Everything you do in Galaxians has... I keep calling it Galaxians, don't I? Galaxian. Everything you do in Galaxian has weight, and it has meaning and consequence. And you have to be ready to deal with all those things. Oh! Piss. That was me not being ready to deal with the consequences of my actions. Whoop, missed. I feel like I used to be much better at this game when I played Ridge Racer regularly, because as long-standing PlayStation fans will know, Ridge Racer had Galaxian on its loading screen, and if you beat Galaxian on its loading screen, or beat a level of Galaxian on its loading screen, then you would unlock all the cars in the game, apart from the black one. But yeah, that was a really cool thing in the original Ridge Racer, and so I got quite good at playing Galaxian while Ridge Racer was loading, just because I found those extra cars in Ridge Racer so useful. I wanted to make sure that I could consistently get them every time. I doubt I could do that anymore, judging by my performance here. It's a shame they stopped doing that, because that was Namco's like big, clever idea in the 32-bit era. I think they even patented it or something, but I'm not sure what happened with it. But like something weird happened with it that meant that people couldn't do it anymore. Or Namco just decided not to do it anymore, but they patented it so no one else could do it. But I remember that moment where I put the Ridge Racer disc in and Galaxian came up while I was loading. And I just thought, wow, we are living in the future. I'm playing a game while another game loads. Oh god. That was nearly nice, but not nice enough. Come here. Don't you loop the loop on me, cheeky bastard. Mavis, the phone! One more try. I've got to redeem myself more than these pathetic scores I've been getting today. Absolutely terrible. Behold, as I concentrate. That was a nice shot. That was also quite a nice shot. Oh no, that was unnice. Oh, why am I so bad at this game? Because it's difficult. That is why I'm bad at this game. That is my defense, and I am sticking to it. No! But for me, this game is rewarding. This is not the kind of hard that feels unfair. Because I know and I understand what I'm doing wrong. Like, for all my ranting about why am I so bad at this game, I know why I'm so bad at this game. It's because I do things like that. And I try to take too many chances, and I end up regretting it. So, this is the last go. This is the last go. Let's make it a good one. Yeah, once you learn to sort of feel the rhythm of their swoops and where they're going to stop and how the different colours differ in that regard. Because you see the different colours, they're slightly different behaviour. So the green ones swoop very slowly. The purple ones swoop in a much wider arc. And the red ones are a little bit more unpredictable. Ooh. Oh, it's getting a bit hot down here. No. Ooh. Stop it. Oh, you ass. Right. Ooh. My trouble is, I tend to sort of feel like I hit... I feel like I tend to hit my flow just as I've got no lives left. And thus I end up sort of panicking. And I think, oh, I'm doing alright. I wish I had more lives. And then I don't have more lives. And then I lose my last life. And then it's all over. Anyway. That is Galaxian for the Famicom. As seen, played here on the Evercade. Cartridge number 2. Namco Museum Collection number 1. That is number 2, isn't it? Yes. Yes. Good. A good game. The thinking man shoot 'em up. And I stand by that statement, as I've said several times. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.